What's up, everybody? This is Chris Surratt bringing you another edition of the Car Concierge Show, the show that helps with the buying, selling, maintaining, and repairing of your vehicle. On today's show, we're going to talk a lot about Volkswagen as they open up a new port facility in Texas. They deal with losing another factory overseas, and they talk about partnering with Rivian. Also, we're going to talk about a China battery company that is deciding, since Trump has taken office, that it is thinking about moving one of its battery factories over to the U.S., something we desperately need. And last but not least, we're going to talk about Trump appointing one of our favorite automakers, Elon Musk, a position in his cabinet, and not extremely automotive, but very important to talk about. So let's jump right in. First off, we're going to talk about the Audi factory over in Brussels. They're having a slight bit of a problem, so they're deciding to close down, and it's part of the course of what we've been talking about as it comes to the automotive industry, pretty much just worldwide. So let's check this out really quickly and we'll talk about it.
Audi has officially announced the closure of its Brussels plant, set to cease operations on February 28, 2025. The factory, which has been central to Audi's production of the electric Q8 e-tron, faces closure due to declining demand for this model and high operational costs, despite the rise in EV demand globally. The company has struggled with finding new projects or models to allocate to the plant, which made it challenging to sustain the facility. The decision impacts roughly 3,000 employees who have voiced their concerns through union protests and strikes in recent months. Workers argue that the lack of alternative plans or projects signals a broader issue in European auto manufacturing, where companies are increasingly focusing on large, high-cost electric SUVs. Some potential investors had shown interest, but no concrete offers materialized that would keep the Brussels plant operational. Audi's decision comes amid Volkswagen Group's, Audi's parent company, wider cost-cutting and restructuring initiatives, including planned closures of plants in Germany. The company is moving toward consolidating production and reducing overhead in response to market pressures from new electric vehicle players, particularly from Asia. Local officials and union leaders are in talks about potential re-employment programs and alternative uses for the facility to support affected workers. Audi and Volkswagen remain in discussions with regional policymakers to explore future employment solutions for these workers, but a final solution has yet to be defined. The decision reflects a complex reality in the auto industry's shift to electric vehicles, highlighting the balance between production efficiency and market responsiveness in a fast-evolving landscape. The Brussels factory's closure underscores the growing pains traditional automakers face as they adapt to the demands of sustainable manufacturing and new market dynamics.
Exactly, and it's a worldwide problem that the automotive industry did not prepare for. They didn't prepare for the shift from remote workers, people staying at home and not really needing cars to drive around a lot. The shift to EV vehicles and the desire for most countries to move over to EVs essentially immediately or very soon. So this is affecting all automakers, not only Audi, the Volkswagen Group, Stellantis, all the companies here in America. It's a worldwide problem specific for the automotive industry. I was talking last week about 3 factories over in Germany that were talking about closing down as well. We talk weekly about factories that are laying off people or closing down here in the United States. And I don't see a firm cure or a firm way to solve this problem. With the rising cost in these new automobiles and the rising cost to maintain them, the lack of an ability for people to finance them because they're so high in cost, the desire for used cars is so dominant nowadays in the United States, to the point where buying new cars is just frowned upon to a great extent. It's just bad. It's a horrible situation. I feel bad for those people over in Brussels that are losing their jobs. And like I always say, these people that are working in these factories have always worked in these factories, so they don't have the experience or the ability to just find another job that pays even close to what they were getting paid at these factories. So it's a massive problem. It always will be, specifically when we're talking about these factories closing down anywhere, not just here in the U.S., but over in Germany, European factories that are closing down. The only place that seems to be thriving is Asian and Chinese groups. And that's not even that true to any degree. They are suffering just as well, but they have the government backing them to some degree. Other companies, even the Volkswagen Group, it has its government backing it to some degree, but they just decided that this Brussels factory wasn't palatable and wasn't something that they should keep around, so they got rid of it. And hopefully they can come up with a solution for these 3,000 factory workers over there. Next up, we're going to continue with the Volkswagen Group. We're going to talk about how they're making a couple of good moves. They decided that they're going to open up a new port facility over in Texas. So let's check that out real quickly. And this is going to be a reader, so bear with me. All right, and of course, we always stay with our favorite source for automotive news, Automotive News. An inside look at Volkswagen Group of America's newest port facility. And this is by Jack Walsworth, and this was written today. Freeport, Texas. Ann Gould, Volkswagen Group of America's top executive in charge of logistics, has a standard line he shares at employee meetings. If you know who I am, then we got a problem, Gould said. Because people who know who we are when something goes wrong, when things move, everyone's happy, life goes on. Gould, a Ford and Fiat Chrysler veteran, oversees various duties as Volkswagen Group of America's Executive Vice President of Group After Sales and Services, including finished vehicle logistics. There's no small task in North America for the world's second largest automaker. Things do routinely go wrong throughout a vast supply chain, often riddled with logistical roadblocks. In recent years, such challenges have included custom delays, port strikes, and a huge ocean-going vessel loaded with cars that caught fire and sank. Damn. As one way to keep things moving smoothly, Volkswagen Group of America has simplified vehicle shipping logistics in a key U.S. port along the Gulf Coast, consolidating two Texas shipping hubs into one location at Freeport, south of Houston. Volkswagen Group has intentions to double our market share in this region, and they're going to continue to invest, Gould said during the facility's grand opening here in October. This is a tangible evidence of that and support for what we do in our business. Volkswagen said the $114 million facility created 110 direct jobs. Port Freeport has 4 deep-water berths available for the massive liquefied natural gas-powered vessels that transport Volkswagen Group products from Europe. That solves a crucial puzzle for Volkswagen because the port of Houston, some 20 miles inward and up the channel from open water, couldn't accommodate the size of newer ships, which are wider than what was previously used. We cannot use the LNG vessels that we are going to use as a company for sustainability initiatives in the port of Houston, Gould said. So we had to move. This place offered a great alternative. The discontinued distribution facility in Midlothian, Texas, near Dallas, was an inland rail yard. Gould said Volkswagen Group of America looked at 17 ports along the Gulf Coast before picking Freeport. It joins Volkswagen Group's port in Davisville, Rhode Island, Baltimore, Jacksonville, Florida, Benicia, California, San Diego, and the Volkswagen assembly plant in Chattanooga. Volkswagen counts its Chattanooga assembly plant as a port since vehicles are shipped from there. The Baltimore port opened in 2020, while Jacksonville launched operations in 2016. But the Benicia port opened in 2017, but its processor control facility and not Volkswagen's own, like Freeport is, a company spokesperson said. How Volkswagen Freeport shipping facility operates. The shipping hub will import process around 140,000 vehicles annually from Volkswagen, Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, and Porsche and become the second largest port by volume for Volkswagen Group of America. The facility has a capacity to import up to 175,000 vehicles annually. The large shipping vessels arriving in Freeport began their journey at the port of Emden in Germany and primarily carry Audi, Bentley, Lamborghini, and Porsche vehicles. The only Volkswagen brand vehicles originating from Emden are the Golf GTI and Golf R hot hatches, as well as the ID Buzz electric minivan. It takes a westbound vessel around 21 to 25 days to reach Freeport after multiple stops at ports along the East Coast. Audi and Volkswagen vehicles are also shipped to Freeport via vessels from Mexico's port of Veracruz and the port of Tuxpan. In addition, Union Pacific Railroad transports Audi and Volkswagen vehicles from assembly plants in Mexico. Gold said Union Pacific had to expand its rail line to support the Freeport facility as existing lines didn't reach that far. A vessel from Europe typically carries 3,000 to 4,000 vehicles and can be unloaded in as little as 3 hours, Gold said. All right. So, this is a very positive thing on Volkswagen's Group of America's side. Definitely a lot of more jobs over in Freeport, Texas, so we love that. Definitely a lot more dock work for those people over in Texas. So this is a beautiful thing. We love new facilities. We love new jobs. We love the opportunities. And we love that Volkswagen is bringing them here to America. That is a very important thing for us. We really are adamant that we need to build our job base here in America, our plant base here in America, bring more jobs here. That's the way we have to go because we're suffering, specifically for the automotive industry. Volkswagen has had a lot of problems over the last couple of years, specifically their problem with the recalls, with them lying about the gas mileages and all of those type of things. So they have some get done. And with the loss of their Audi facility, I know that puts them, behind a little bit, but this helps out a lot. It's going to help them get vehicles over. Now, my question, of course, is going to be, is this going to be affected by tariffs at all? Is Volkswagen Group one of those groups that are going to be laden with all of the issues that other overseas companies are going to deal with when it comes to Trump's presidency? Who knows? We just don't know yet. But they seem to be supplying us with jobs, so that's the first step on, easing tariffs, as it were. So let's keep going. We're going to stick with the Rivian group, or we're going to stick with the Volkswagen Group of America and talk about how they're joining forces with Rivian. So, of course, week after week we talk about how a lot of these automakers are going to have to join forces, specifically the ones here in America, are going to have to join forces with other automakers, specifically when it comes to EV vehicles. Rivian is a great one. Tesla's a great one. Derek Bailey's of the world. These are companies that places like Nissan, the Volkswagens, the Dodges and Jeeps, these are companies or automakers that these companies are definitely going to have to try to start to partner with so they can, move forward when it comes to the EVs, because America, as in most countries, starting to demand that EV vehicles be the majority of the vehicles on the road these days. And that's going to be a hard push because, let's face it, lots of people, me included, we like our combustion gas engine vehicles. It's going to be hard to get them away from us. We're going to keep some around, that's for sure. But they know for sure that the future is in EV vehicles, and so we expect a lot of the most common automakers to start to partner with EV companies like Rivian. So let's check out a story. We're going to check out Rivian updates. It's a little bit long, but this young man really tells this story of the joint venture between Rivian and Volkswagen really well. So we're going to indulge him and check this out.
Hey guys, it's Rivian Updates. My name is Isaiah. This past June of 2024, Rivian and Volkswagen announced that they would be forming a joint venture. This joint venture will help focus on building software-defined vehicles, SDVs, for Volkswagen. We know that Rivian has put a lot of time into the software for their vehicles, and with Rivian's Gen 2 vehicles, they have put a lot of time into the zonal architecture. Everything that runs the low voltage electrical hardware of this vehicle, from the GPUs and the CPUs and the many computers that run everything from the screens down to the window switches, all of this, they were able to reduce about like 40 pounds of wiring and GPUs and CPUs, and it helps reduce costs to manufacture the vehicle as well as make the vehicle easier to produce. And with this zonal architecture that Rivian built for the Gen 2 R1s, Volkswagen said, hey, you know what? We want a piece of this pie, and that's exactly what's happening. And as of so far, we already know Volkswagen and Rivian have already built a demonstrator vehicle, a proof of concept implementing Rivian zonal architecture into a Volkswagen Group vehicle. They didn't specify which vehicle it was or what they saw specifically, but just know there's a demonstrator vehicle that likely has some form of Rivian OS, Rivian software implemented on a Volkswagen vehicle, and all of the other electrical components of the vehicle are still interconnected with the zonal architecture. Volkswagen will appoint one CEO, a co-CEO, and Rivian will appoint another co-CEO. There will be two CEOs. Now, however, these two CEOs will have two different jobs. The Volkswagen co-CEO will be more focused on the financials and the more managerial aspect of the engineering direction of this joint venture, while the co-CEO from Rivian will be focused on the software hardware side of the direction of this joint venture. And so you're kind of taking Volkswagen's financial expertise, we know they have money, and we're taking Rivian's hardware and software expertise, and you take two strongholds, you put them together, and you're getting something that I think will be awesome. This joint venture is going to help both companies. This joint venture will also help Rivian attribute a lot of the software and hardware costs that go into making the zonal architecture.
It's definitely going to help Volkswagen more, I think, than Rivian, because Rivian is the ones who have what Volkswagen needs. And that's, and like you said, Volkswagen just has a lot of money, and it's ready to spend money, and it has to spend money to dive itself into the future. And Rivian is the perfect partner to get that done with. So I cannot wait to see what the demonstrator vehicle is from Volkswagen that has the Rivian parts. But this is just the way it's going.
Architecture and the software expenses, those operating expenses, can now be attributed to some of the joint venture. And so this also helps Rivian reduce some of their costs. And talking about money, right? We know in June, upon the announcement of this joint venture, Volkswagen actually gave Rivian $1 billion. I believe Volkswagen now owns like 8% of the company. It's this number here. And $2 billion additional dollars will be invested in ordinary shares. So regular stock, $2 billion will be invested, $1 billion in 2025 and $1 billion in 2026. That comes up to $2 billion. So that's $3 billion there. And then an additional $2 billion will be spent on licensing and loans. It's undisclosed how much of this $2 billion will be divided for each, and there are some other costs attributed, but we do know, I guess, most of this cost for this $2 billion of this $5 billion total will be given to Rivian in licensing fees. Rivian has all of this hardware and software. They need to be paid for it. Then this part of this $2 billion will also be used as a loan. So the joint venture will be receiving a loan to complete some of these operations. And my assumption with this loan is that Volkswagen and Rivian are expecting the joint venture to become profitable fairly quickly. And it's not just Rivian and Volkswagen that can see benefit from this. Other OEMs that maybe don't have the expertise or don't want to spend the money and time in building software for these vehicles and building zonal architectures for these vehicles. Rivian has already done the hard work. Volkswagen is utilizing this. They were first at the table. Now they're going to be collaborating. But think from Nissan to Ford to GM to Hyundai, Kia. There are a lot of other OEMs that could utilize this zonal architecture.
And it's fantastic for Rivian that it's got in on the bottom floor of this, so it could go about using this texture to branch itself out to all of these companies, the Nissans, everybody else could use this same pattern on their EVs from Rivian. And this would make Rivian quite the company if they could do that.
And could utilize an upgrade in software, and that's where this comes into play, and that's where, hey, Rivian is able to, this joint venture with Rivian and Volkswagen are able to license and charge these companies per vehicle. And I think with all this, they're able to save costs, so maybe these OEMs are able to cut costs of some of their vehicles on top of the margins that Volkswagen and Rivian would impose to be able to make a profit for themselves, but likely they'd be able to sell more vehicles from this. And so I think it's a win-win for the entire industry, and I'm hoping that Rivian is able to announce more OEMs that are willing to work with Volkswagen.
I love that idea. He's absolutely right. And it would be great for the industry, specifically it would be great for Rivian because they'll have the main technology, and they could, spread that around to all these other companies, and it'll not only help the other companies when it comes to their EVs, but of course it'll maximize Rivian and put Rivian at the top of the industry, because all the other companies or all the OEMs are using their product to put their EVs out. This is a great idea.
Volkswagen and Rivian on this. And when I say Volkswagen, I'm talking about every Volkswagen brand. Lamborghini, Volkswagen, Skoda, Ducati, Bentley, Audi, Porsche. But you know the Volkswagen brands. So all of these will be utilizing this zonal architecture. It's unsure if this also includes something like Rimac and Bugatti. I wasn't sure if it's been discussed. Let me know in the comments if you do know if this will be something shared between the gas and internal combustion engine vehicles. However, if Volkswagen wants to sell more EVs anyway, this is something they need to focus on. So I'm guessing that this will likely strictly be for the EVs, or those EVs that are EV focused like Scout. Scout will be introducing their range extender, so it'll be gas and electric. But we do know that Scout is using Rivian's zonal architecture. It was said multiple times during the Scout unveil that they'll be using a zonal architecture. Well, we know Volkswagen doesn't have a zonal architecture. What zonal architecture could they be talking about? When we look at the Scout software, when we look at the UI of the Scout Terra and Traveler, I mean, it's clear as day that that's not Volkswagen software. Everything down from the layout to some of the smaller features like pet mode and camp mode and some of the suspension changes, you could tell that this is probably just a reskinned version of Rivian's OS. And with
So, I mean, wouldn't that make Scout the demonstrator that we're talking about here? I mean, because I checked out this Scout reveal. It was, I didn't, this is news. I didn't realize maybe that was Rivian tech, but okay, good stuff.
Ben Said,
who is Rivian's chief software officer, he said during a TechCrunch interview this past week that every Volkswagen Group vehicle, or whether it's other OEMs, the basis of all of this will be Rivian's zonal architecture. Everything can be reconstructed for different vehicles, different OEMs, but the basis of this will be built on Rivian's zonal architecture. And then from the software side, it'll just be a reskinned, unique version for every OEM. And so Volkswagen and Porsche and Audi and Rivian, well, they'll all have different UIs and different experiences. And I'm sure Rivian will have something that Volkswagen and Audi doesn't, and Porsche will have something that Rivian and Volkswagen doesn't. However, in essence, what makes them a good software experience, they will all share. And it was said Scout used this, and we see again through these pictures that it really just looks like a reskinned version of Rivian OS. I don't think it looks exactly like Rivian OS, but again, we know Volkswagen doesn't have really their own UI like that, and their own really full software experience, and Rivian does. So where else was Scout getting this from? It hasn't been said if the Scout prototypes during the unveil had Rivian zonal architecture. Now they are just prototypes. For instance, Rivian's R2, R3, and R3X prototypes are actually just all R1, so they're just R1 parts reskinned into smaller vehicles. I'm not sure what Scout did, if this is just a reskinned Rivian, or if it's a reskinned Porsche or something that they used, but we do know that the software side of it is going to be Rivian. So we went over cost, we went over what these vehicles will be using, what vehicles will be used for, and so regulatory approval. So this joint venture has already been approved by both the US and European governments. And so now it is all on Rivian and Volkswagen to finish the rest of this joint venture to see it form in this quarter of 2024. So I'm expecting to hear something this week. This week, Rivian will be announcing November 7th their quarter 3 earnings results, and I will be going over that. If you wanted to see me live stream that, comment down below and probably live stream it. Typically, I just tweet everything out and post everything on social platforms. Of course, follow me on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and whatever, LinkedIn. I post it everywhere, all the results. And yeah, so the regulatory approval has been done. Volkswagen and Rivian already have a demonstrator vehicle prototype, proof that this vehicle will work if they were to build it in mass. Kind of an engineering prototype. They need to be able to see in tangible in that what they're building, and so that's already been done. So we have a VW prototype with Rivian zonal architecture. All VWG vehicles will be using Rivian zonal architecture. Again, not sure if that includes like Rimats and Bugatti. And yeah, like that's everything we know so far about this joint venture deal. If there isn't anything I covered or you have some questions, feel free to comment them down below. My expectations for this, I think this, again, Rivian's able to attribute a lot of costs from this joint venture that are related to operating expenses of building the software and hardware. If they're able to then attribute this to the joint venture, therefore reducing the costs that it has on Rivian itself. And we already know that this zonal architecture was a big part of how Rivian was able to reduce the cost of the Gen 2 vehicles. I think it's some like 15 to 20% cost reduction in the wiring that was done here. And with this, Rivian was also able to upgrade the GPUs and CPUs. So it makes this vehicle much more able and capable for bigger software updates, even on the self-driving side. This is everything we know about Rivian and Volkswagen's joint venture deal. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Isaiah. This is Rivian Updates, and I'll see you in the next one.
All right, that was pretty awesome. Isaiah at Rivian Updates. Good stuff. Good idea of what's going on. Wow, Volkswagen is definitely dumping a couple of $1 billion into Rivian, and it's a beautiful thing, really. It's good that the European government and the U.S. have already agreed that it's okay. And the idea that Rivian, builds this structured platform for all OEMs, all other car automakers, it's a great idea. It'll help the other automakers, it'll help the automotive industry, it'll put more jobs, give more opportunity to people, because Rivian, of course, will have to, build more factories for them, probably local, which would be great. It sounds awesome. Sounds like a great idea, specifically a great idea for the Volkswagen Group. Great idea for the Volkswagen Group. With all the losses they're having with the Brussels factory and the other 3 Germany factories in Germany that they're planning to close, and they're having some problems. But they have the capital to spend to try to fix these problems, and they're definitely go about doing that. A couple $1 billion over to Rivian, couple $1 billion over here, couple $1 billion over there, pay a little money on some recalls, and you're back in this thing. They expect great things from this partnership. This joint venture should be fantastic for both teams. So let's hope that great things come from it. Let's hope that Rivian can really boost its net worth and put really the idea that they built these for all OEMs is fantastic. So let's hope that can go into effect. All right, so last but not least, and I was going to save this for some other time. But recently, of course, we all know that President Trump has taken office as the president-elect of our great country. And he is taking no short time in appointing his new cabinet, appointing all kinds of people into all kinds of different positions that we've never heard of, which, if they can get the job done, we don't care. But he decided he was going to give one of our favorite automakers, Elon Musk, and a really cool cat named Vivek Ramaswamy, a job running the government, as it were. But let's check it out. This is excessive. So let me say this real quick. Well, let's pin it out there, and we'll talk about it This is going to be a very, very interesting couple of years with our new president, Trump, and I think this is just the start of it. Now, Elon Musk, he as a businessman, he's fantastic. We love the progress of Tesla. Very interested in SpaceX, and if he's going to lead a government efficiency part of this cabinet, then my mind has to always go to the automotive industry and wonder what he's going to do about the EPA and what they're going to do about when it comes to emissions in vehicles. I'm not sure that's exactly what their positions are. I think that he already appointed somebody to do the EPA, so it baffles me slightly that he appointed Elon Musk to do this. But of course, Elon Musk did. He say he plans to help Trump cut $2 trillion from the federal spending, and Vivek is talking about how he was going to change the Department of Education, the FBI, and IRS, and all these are all great things. They don't really affect the automotive industry directly. I don't know how he is going to navigate the fact that he owns Tesla, and Tesla is a company that gets parts and vehicles from overseas, Asia specifically. So my biggest question or worry, as it were, would be that this position would allow Elon to skate certain things when it comes to the tariffs and the aspects of Trump's statements of what he would do with his new presidency as it comes to automakers and, tariffs in China. If Elon's position in the government is going to affect, or if Elon's position is going to affect his ability to run Tesla, pretty much, to, is this going to allow him to skate the tariffs that we were so adamant about being necessary to make sure that we concentrate on buying American? And that's pretty much all I was thinking about when it came to this. I'm not, it's too early, way too early for us to know how all these appointees that Trump is making is going to affect the world. So we're just going to have a wait and see mentality when it comes to this. So, all right, guys, I'm going to let y'all get up out of here. There was some other stuff I want to tackle, but I think I'm going to do another show on Friday and then do another show on Sunday. So it's great things happening in the automotive industry. Some of those great things are because Trump became president. So we got to talk about it. All right, let y'all get out of here. I am Chris Surratt. Thank you for tuning in. Please like, share, subscribe to the channel, and I'm out. Peace.